Hello, beautiful sunshines. Welcome to Now That's Love.
With your favorite mother-daughter duo, Ashlyn and
Janae where you get to know thyself, love thyself, and be the best version of self.
Because the greatest love story you are ever going to tell is the one you create with yourself every day. Today, we are going to be talking all about boundaries. So on our previous episode, we talked about codependency, and today we are going to be on the topic of how to solve those codependency issues and put up a fine line of boundaries which you should initiate in the very beginning of all your relationships. And I would like to add on to that, where I feel like boundaries recently, it's been kind of annoying for me to observe that they're looking at boundaries as just shutting everybody out, shutting your family out, shutting yourself out. That is not what boundaries are. I want to first and foremost say that boundaries are about protecting yourself, but it does not mean taking yourself, your beautiful essence, away from this world. Do not do that. Whenever we set boundaries, we're talking about people that bring you down in life and do not bring higher energy to you. Not people that just disagree with the littlest thing. That is not it. We're not all
have difference of opinions.
Yes, exactly. We're not all on the same journey. We are all one, and we all need to connect and love with each other.
Right.
Even just with our little differences.
And I want to add in there just real quick before, because I know you have amazing stuff to share on the, I want to say that a good way to look at boundaries with what you've said is that they're healthy boundaries. And so they have you feeling healthier. You feel healthier in the mind, you have feel healthier in the body. So they're for your health, mind, body, and spirit.
I absolutely love that. Healthy boundaries, not taking everyone as toxic. Not everybody is toxic, everybody. Toxic is so overused nowadays. And I don't even like using the word toxic because none of us are. We are all just working through things, and each of us have our quirks that are different from others. And sometimes we stay further away from others. But so I really first want to highlight just the health effects and the benefits that you get to have for yourself when you set these boundaries. So first of all, you get to avoid burnout. So you're not over trying to achieve these things with these people. And then you have compassion for yourself and others. You're not forming resentment with them or with even yourself, because you can form resentment with yourself whenever you're just keep giving and you're not honoring your needs. What you need in that moment is more important than constantly sacrificing what you cannot give much further along. Also creating healthy and happy relationships. And I always like to add healthy and happy relationships, like my wonderful Mamacita said, with yourself especially. And that mirrors out into your friendships and relationships. And then also lower your stress, of course. Like, you're setting these boundaries and you're not so overwhelmed with everything that's going along anymore and sacrificing what you have.
Right. And with stress, is the biggest issue for all of the doctor visits. It's stress induced. It just causes dis-ease within the body. And so healthy boundaries are actually your benefit. Like, they're your healthy pill. You're checking in with yourself and saying, listen, this is living my integrity, and I am not gonna, oh gosh, isn't it so true? Like, we keep on saying this, but like, the more you really truly become your own best friend and love on yourself, it just makes it simple to have boundaries. You just start to see, like, you know what, actually, no. And you don't have to go into explanation. That's another thing about boundaries and codependency that we talked about, is not over explaining. Not over explaining why you're doing it, why you're creating the boundaries.
It reminds me a couple of days ago, whenever you were over at my house and we were hanging out with my little one, my little 3-year-old, and my mom asked, "Hey, do you want a cookie?" And he said, "No," and just walked off. And me and my mom both looked at each other and were like, I inspire to be like that. Just say no.
Well,
And
I
he had
do it all
no
the
guilt
time.
walking off. Just bye.
I say no all the time. I used to give this like paragraph text message of why I
Right.
couldn't do something. And then when we talked about in the last episode, the month, 3 months, it was literally delete, 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 backspace, backspace, because I'm like, wow, I just explained, even though it was absolutely honest, you don't need to go into this big, huge
Yeah.
thing of why on anything, unless you feel inclined that you want to explain to a person. Like for Ashlyn, I probably would be like sunshine, but I think boundaries as what we witness as ourselves, that family is one of the hardest things for within
I've
clients and
seen that
people
a
I
lot.
talk to, is to have healthy boundaries in that too. You might have a sibling that's constantly needy, or in a way that is not healthy. If you have a sibling with,
Constantly calling you with problems.
yeah, or a mother or a father, or different things where you just realize maybe you have an alcoholic mother, and she's constantly screaming and yelling or different things, and you want that mother's love so desperately, but you just create the boundary, the healthy boundary, that certain times of day, maybe you don't answer the phone because she starts drinking at 10 o'clock or whatever. I know I've seen this. I've just witnessed this within certain individuals I've worked with, where they just started to step into their healthy boundaries for themselves. And because then your day's a wash. And I had one girl that kept on coming and talking to me. She was not a client of mine, but she kept on being the victim of her sister and her mother, who were very much toxic. Well, we don't want to say that word. That they were all having their addictional issues and taking it out on her. She was constantly picking up and taking care of them, having to get this person out of this situation or that situation, and I told her, you just got to take care of your health, because they're both adults, and you can pick and choose different things that you can help them with, but you're constantly the person that they're landing on. And now you're taking care of this person's children, and because she's not showing up for them, there's so many different things that were just, it was a constant. She had literally taken on them, and then she was suffering, and I think she was trying to do everything she could for her own children. Well, lo and behold, probably about 3 years later, she's putting out there that she has breast cancer, and she was young, and different things. And I see it all the time. We hear it all the time within my own body, the disease. So boundaries are like a lifesaver. You're
You with
saving your own
anything.
life, right?
Your life,
You're extending your life so that you can show up for your loves. So many times I made decisions in the fact that I wanted to make sure I was showing up for my children. And that's where my boundaries were like, it was quicker to put boundaries up for taking care of my children than I was for myself in the beginning. And then it just seeped into, for sure, for myself. When your body starts breaking down to a point, and I'm seeing it a lot in people just recently, a lot of conversations constantly in and out, like, I don't know why I'm getting sick all the time. Well, it catches up. Your stress level and the things of not having healthy boundaries, of say you work at a job and the boss thinks that you can work at 18 hours because they don't want to hire them. They just let go of 4 people, but now you have that 4 people's worth of work.
worth a task.
And you're fearful because you just watched your colleagues get let go, and you need to make the money or whatever. And instead of thinking outside the box where I can get another job, and I know this is easier said than done in the time frame, but there's always options, instead of you completely losing your life to not having, like, no, I'm sorry, I have 3 children at home, and my job started from 8 to 5, and that's what I signed on for. But so many people will go home and open up the emails and work until 9 or 10 o'clock, and we become part of the system then, right? We become part of what is out there. That's where I think it comes into not knowing thyself, not loving thyself, and not taking care of, like, being your very best self. Maybe we buy into that.
You're not honoring your needs at that point.
Right.
And kind of what you said about the job, it's knowing your priorities. What are your priorities right now? Is it for yourself? Is it for taking care of your kids? I think so many people get their priorities mixed up, and then we usually end up complaining about the time that we don't have with those certain things that we need to take care of, because we're not putting what we need to put first. So know your priorities. Really analyze, write a list down. I'm a list person, so I love writing it down, looking at it. What are your priorities right now? What do you need to take care of? Not even so much just money wise, like your mental needs, your family's needs, most importantly, obviously yours. And do not put too much pressure on yourself by having unrealistic expectations. So don't think, oh, I can do an 18-hour shift, come home, cook dinner, clean, and get 2 hours of sleep and do the same thing again. You're not going to be able to do that. If
You'll get burnt out, right?
Exactly. You'll get burnt out, you'll get tired, you'll get sick. Don't do that. And that goes along with relationships and friendships. Don't set unrealistic expectations on yourself and with them. So within my friendships, I've mentioned this before, we tell each other what we expect out of our friendships. My friends, especially a month or two ago, whenever I was in the depth of getting my master's program done, I told them, I'm like, I don't have time right now. I'm going to message you guys. I'm going to devote what I can within a reasonable amount of boundaries of giving them attention. But they knew, okay, Ashlyn's a mom. Ashlyn's getting schoolwork done. She's working on creating Now That's Love. She has a beautiful family. And those are my priorities. Those were things at that time that I needed to take care of first so I could accomplish what I needed to. And they accepted that. And some of my best friends are like, girl, I'm busy too. We're all on this. And like, with the 4 agreements, not taking that personally whenever people set those boundaries. It's just, that's what they need in that moment. And if you feel like that can be acceptable in your life as a friend with person that's setting those boundaries, then great. But if you don't think you can accept it, be like, this is not my cup of tea in this moment, or this is not my cup of hot cocoa, and move forward. And those boundaries that you set with your friends and your relationships, you'll see who matches up in your life. It's not about, forcing them to be part of your life. That's not it. Like my husband and I, whenever we first began our relationship beautiful journey, it was, hey, I want this and I want this. And we're like, wow, this really matches up together. We started confolding together, and sooner or later our goals really matched up and we were able to progress forward. And we respected each other's boundaries in our relationship of what we expected. We expected loyalty. We expected love. We expected to take care of each other. And we've kept doing that in our relationship, and those boundaries have held up. Now, the second that in a relationship or friendship that those fall down, express it. Say, hey, you're not holding up to what we talked about or agreed upon. And if they can't respect that further, it's just you're meeting different places. You're separating different ways. And that doesn't mean they're right and you're wrong and this and that. It's just maybe you're no longer aligned, and that's okay. But tell people that you don't, like I said, don't appreciate the way that they are talking to you. And I would like to mention this in a certain relationship that I had in the past, that I ended up taking full responsibility for not setting these boundaries in the very beginning of our relationship. Take responsibility right now in this moment. And it's not guilt tripping, because in the beginning I was like guilting myself of, well, the reason that they did this is because I never set this up. No, this is not a shame trip. It's just taking responsibility for where you are in your relationships right now. So with a specific friend, she would always say snide remarks or talk behind my back. And I knew these things. I knew that there were things said behind my back. And I never truly stuck up for myself. I never said, hey, the way you are talking to me right now, and not an egoic manner. You need to say this in a very calm manner and say, hey, the way you are talking to me right now, Jim Bob, is not okay. I do not like the way you said X, Y, or Z. Now, at this point, you don't have control of what they're going to say back to you, right? They can either say, oh my, I did not know I hurt your feelings in that moment, or I did not know I crossed those boundaries. Just like a recognition of how they affected you and how you guys can reconcile that. Now you have the other hand where it's just completely, oh, I didn't know how I hurt you. You should have said this to begin with, da 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 da, and just going completely off on you. And at that moment, I think that's when you know that it's done. And then I noticed that in that relationship where I was like an ongoing thing for like 4 years, where I just kind of, I let things roll off my shoulder because I was like, oh, kind of like, it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. Oh, it was just a little thing. It was just a tiny thing that she said. And then the way I started seeing that gather, it got worse and worse and worse. And then those actions started breathing out into important moments in my life. And it became more about her problems, her codependency with certain things. And it bled onto me. And I ended up talking to her about it a little while because I was being a tad bit codependent. We talked about in the previous where I was being avoidant of handling a conflict. And I ended up coming to her a couple weeks afterwards and saying, hey, like this hurt me. I didn't appreciate this. This was kind of a special moment for me. And it just blew up back in my face of being gaslit. Well, you weren't really being a friend in that moment. And I tried to understand her perspective because I always try my best in every situation in a relationship to put myself in that person's shoes, perspective, view, whatever you want to call it. And she was just like, well, I don't really see you much as a friend anymore. And I was like, okay, like, thank you for letting me know. And I ended the conversation there. And I was grateful to receive my answer of where she viewed our relationship. I was like, okay, she doesn't view me much of a friend, then we're not going to continue this forward. We're both going different ways, and that's okay. She was really happy in her path, and I was really happy on mine, and that's okay. We were just going different ways, and you just never know why that happens and why you grow apart, but sometimes it just happens. And I no longer wanted to be codependent of not feeling the guilt of wanting to be with her, or, oh my gosh, like soaking in all that energy. And that was okay. That was truly okay to have that. But like I said, I took responsibility of what I played in that role. My mom and I have mentioned this before. We all are in our own movie. What role do you play? We're not perfect. We're not going around this world all perfect. We're not all little Pollyannas in this world. We all contribute different factors. And it's not, like I said, not making you feel guilt, shame on what you contributed. It's taking ownership of why this ended up leading to this. And I realized I never shut the way that she was talking to me down. I never had those boundaries, ever. And so what did I expect? It was so silly to think that one day she's just going to wake up and change. Maybe I need to treat Ashlyn better. Like, no, I never said that. So I took that responsibility, and continuing on forward with my relationships, I did that with Jerome 6 years ago, but I never focused on doing it with my girlfriendships. And I think I had to realize that going through codependency, like I said, recovering codependent over here. But that's what I focused on my boundaries of seeing that I needed to set that up from the beginning. So right now, with all your friendships, if you see boundaries being crossed, or you're starting a new friendship right now, wow, that's so exciting. You have an opportunity to like set the foundation, the stone, the rock, that this is what I want. I know my beliefs. I know who I am. And I'm not going to let anybody cross that. It's really a respect thing. And if they really want you in their life as a friendship or relationship, they're going to first of all respect you and respect your boundaries. I also want to lead relationships onto privacy and physical boundaries. So romantic of sharing. Most importantly, your physical boundaries, and I would even say romantic relationships, of how and when and if they can touch you.
That's a big one. This is such a walk for so many individuals. Setting it up in your head before you even go out was what I was taught as a younger girl. And then walking through your belief system, and then what we see on social media and the dating apps. And it's an evolution of self, because everybody does get to choose what they want to do or allow with their bodies, and understanding the energetic field of, even a hug with someone can bring on different energies. Say nothing about intimacy and in a whole different ballgame, but so often, men and women, there's women that are very aggressive out there too, that
Yeah.
you've got to use your voice, and just don't go to a place all by yourself either until you really know that person. It's like, you're like, first date, we're going to go to your place.
Yeah.
Or, everybody has a choice, but as far as boundaries go, being from someone that's been raped and had different things happen in her life, this is more of a tender subject. So creating those boundaries, and then when you say no, you mean no, right?
Very important. While I was walking my journey with not having my friend talk bad to me anymore and working on my boundaries with that situation, you during that time were in a relationship that you were working on the same things for setting up those boundaries.
Yeah, it's just so interesting walking through, what are your beliefs? Self-respecting, this was just for me, my body. Interestingly enough, had done boundaries for certain other reasons, sexually or intimately, back in the day, more of like a fear of the religion and different things like that. And then fast forward it, and if you're to step back, depends on who your social circle is or who you're talking to or what do you see on social media, but there's different messages out there of just, being your woman power and sleep with everybody, or the other end of the spectrum. And, if a man does it, a woman can do it. I'm only saying this not for myself, but for all those women out there and men out there. If this helps you, this is the only reason I'm even discussing this, because, and that's what would be great to hear as a community down below, what boundaries you've created out of self-respect for yourself. Maybe if you're single and dating, or even with just your husband. Just because you're married or in a very serious relationship does not mean you still have to just give up yourself. You can still,
and a lot of that comes from fear and shame of like not wanting to, because you're scared that they're
gonna cheat on you, right? More of a threat, where you're stepping into your healthy boundary, like, listen, I'm not feeling it right now, and it's not going to happen. That's something that is kind of on a deeper level, isn't it? Or just in the dating field, of just saying, when Ashlyn asked me about my boundaries, that was the physical boundaries. Like, I don't, if he's also talking, like it's the second message or third message and it's very sexual, we teach people how to treat us with our healthy boundaries. And if we treat ourselves kindly and lovingly, and we respect our bodies, my goodness, I looking and reflecting back on my life, I am in such a place now. I think it was the freedom of really choosing to be here now, in the respecting and honoring my body. I think it was a value system growing up, but more of a shame and guilt energy. And now it's out of freaking love. It's out of gratitude for my body and not just sharing it with anybody. So
it's not like you're overextending yourself anymore because of guilt that you're feeling. It's just you're doing, like we mentioned in the previous one, you're doing it because you want to.
Yeah.
And you're
so much more special.
Yeah. I feel like standing up for yourself and using your voice are the key things to it, because you know yourself the best. Like I mentioned in the beginning, the greatest love story you were ever going to tell is the one with yourself. And what story do you want that to be? Do you want to be known as the person that just let everything fly by and never got that spine to have those boundaries and be truly themselves and be proud of who they are and what their beliefs are? I think as being a mom for myself, it was amazing. I think all moms, dads out there can say, once you have a kid, I gained so much more of a backbone. Even my husband told me this. He's like, wow,
You
like
did.
you are in your lioness roar, baby.
Let everybody know.
I realized it's not just I'm sticking up for myself. Whenever I go out, I'm defending a little cub bear too. I'm about to defend two cub bears, and I'm their voice. I'm their boundaries. So if someone comes up and hugs them, I'm like, wait, 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 wait. He doesn't want to hug. Those are his boundaries. He's running away from you. He doesn't have to do those things. And it was great because as I was sticking up for him, I realized I don't need to accept the hug either. I don't really want to hug that person right now.
Right.
I love the conscious parenting going on right now. It's so freaking awesome.
It's really awesome what's being shown out there. And I think that was such a shifter. Exactly what you said is I started seeing life as a mother protecting her daughter and her boys. Mm-hmm. I remember walking in Target and there was a man probably, let's say in his 50s, and he was going to trip over everything in front of him. He was staring at you as like a 12-year-old girl, wow, just lustfully. And I'm literally locked eyes on him, about to go barrel him. Like, dude, but did I do it for myself? Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Like, I was doing it for you, but did I do it for when so many guys were doing that, like, for me? And so it was a shifter I remember, so this is me boundarying myself, is I walked into a gym to deliver my treats at a smoothie shop one day. There were two teenage girls. They were just absolutely beautiful working at the smoothie shop. And a man that I knew that was married walked up, and I'm just going to say it, he was always flirting with all the ladies in there. Yeah. And I had a shirt on and dress pants because I was just delivering my goodies, and I was not gym wear. Not that it would have been anyway. What I was wearing, what he was about to do was not right. Mm-hmm. He comes and walks up to me and says hello, and then he lifts up my shirt all the way, and I have a full on like bra, not a sports bra, even though either way would have been totally inappropriate.
I was going to say either way would have been invasive.
Totally freaking inappropriate, and the girls were right there, and my natural reaction was so fast that I did say a swear word, and I punched him in the thing and swiped his foot, and he went right down on his butt. And I'm like, don't effing touch me. Yeah. I couldn't even believe he did that. First of all, I'm like, the image in my head is that everybody in the whole entire gym just saw my bra, my everything, like so inappropriate. And then I turned to the girls. I'm like, I'm so sorry that I swore. And they're like, no, that was amazing. And he went around and told everybody in the gym. People were coming up to me the next week saying, well, I heard you were like such a BA because of what you did to so-and-so. And like, that's what he's saying about you. And I said, well, let me just tell you my side of the story. What happened? They're like, you've got to be kidding me. And so 2 or 3 days later, these girls walk up to me. Here's my boundary. I'm like, and I did it fast. It was just a reaction mode. I'm not saying you should knock somebody out.
Knock them out with your words sometimes, though.
Right. But the girls came up to me and said that both of them, they were in high school and they'd had something happen to them. They did the same thing as I did. Don't touch me. You have no right to touch me and everything else. And it's like, you were such an example for us. And so I literally sat there in that moment and thought, that's probably why that all went down. First of all, for me to prove to myself that I can do it after some of the things I'd been through. And for those girls, at the perfect timing, they'd been having so much sexual harassment happening. So many people do in high school, especially, and in college. It's the saddest story, but not being the victims and having that boundary.
99%, it's definitely 100% of women that have either been sexually harassed, raped, or molested. And honestly, I feel like 100% of us have all been.
And I would dare say the boys are up there too, because I've talked to lots of boys, and they're just more quiet about it. They're more quiet about it. It's so sad. So, but if they were to vocalize, they've had somebody, even a woman that's a predator, like older woman when they're teenagers or whatever.
Oh, so, yeah, I've heard plenty of stories of that. Mm-hmm.
Right. So many stories. And so it's the boundary there of, taking care of yourself. But with Ashlyn saying like the mother's eyes, different things where I literally was able to see things differently because I stepped into that mama bear for my children. And then stepping back, I would be thinking, wow, I'm totally taking care of them. Where in the exact same situation in my own life, am I doing it for myself? And you can step back and look at it that way because
I agree.
There's such a deep love for our children or for our animals or different things. There's a deep love of protection. And that's where the healthy boundaries come in, is also protecting yourself. You wouldn't have your child go off and have to do all this, manual labor for 18 hours a day, every single day, and be like, oh, you have this, you're so amazing. Like, way to go to do the 18-hour day. You don't do to yourself. Like, step back and really look at things, like weigh them out.
I feel like so many times too, it's easier to reflect and try to see, oh, I wouldn't want someone doing this to this person. Like, I wouldn't want someone doing this to Jerome or Malay or people that I really care about. And it's actually kind of sad that from the very beginning, we're more actually trained to focus on loving others, like in movies and stuff, when in all reality, we should be, like, so many things could be just not even an issue.
Not even an issue with the relationship with self.
In the very beginning, if we weren't codependent of, if we loved ourselves, we wouldn't be codependent. If we would already have boundaries if we loved ourselves. Like, it's just, that's the deep freaking root right there of, do I love myself enough? I obviously love Malay enough. I love Jerome enough to protect them. But do I love myself enough to protect myself? And I think especially as I've grown older and I left the birdie nest with my mom was the one setting the boundaries for me. No, you don't look at her that way. Don't talk to her that way. And growing as a woman, I didn't have people doing that for me anymore. I relied on Jerome to do it for me. Jerome's like, you're a tough cookie, Ashlyn. You can stick up for yourself. And I'm like, oh, okay. And like I said, once I had Malay, I definitely got it. But do you love yourself? Ask yourself that question right freaking now, to set those boundaries of not letting people talk to me a certain way, guilt me, make me fear of them abandoning me. Those people, if you've set those boundaries and they are not respecting them, it's honestly, like, in a way, like, thank you for showing me your true colors. Thank you for showing me where you see our relationship.
Right. And
because if they can't respect that, they don't respect you.
And then you're not respecting yourself by allowing it to continue.
Boom, yeah. Babies.
Right. It's like, I think of this too, whether you're in a relationship or not, but let's say you're not, and you're so excited about dating, or at the very beginning, you just, what's your favorite color? What do you like to do? What are your hobbies? All these different things. But have you done that for yourself?
Yeah.
Have you done that for yourself? Like, do you know what you like? Do you know what speaks to you? And what are your boundaries? Like, let's go back into the boundaries. What are you not willing to allow somebody to talk to you? Or,
and I feel like we have different levels of boundaries, right?
Everybody
like we have
does.
Like our firm freaking foundation.
Yeah, probably
but
top 3 or 5.
Need to add on. Like, I need to set another boundary. You don't need to lay it all out and then feel guilty for laying another one on top of it. It's okay to build and grow, because you're going to learn more things about yourself. It's all an evolution of who you are. But I can guarantee right now you have a top freaking 5 of, these are my solidifying boundaries. First of all, like I said,
your values.
Your values.
It goes to your values. Mine is definitely feeling like I have that mind freedom and peace of mind. And I feel like my peace is being robbed. Like, it's constantly negative stuff. Then I'm responsible. They can continually do whatever they want to do. I'm not trying to control that. But for me, I don't want to continually do that and live that in that zone of that type of a person that sees life so doomsday or so negative. And that's okay for them. But for me, there's a boundary there. There's 100%, 100% boundary
And I
there.
guarantee that those people that are that way are going to find their group. Don't feel guilty for reading your ways or whatever. I remember I tell my mom, oh my gosh, I lost a friend. She's like, you didn't lose anything because they weren't providing anything to begin with. And I was
you never
like,
owned them. When we say
that
we've
too,
lost
yeah.
something, when we say that something's mine, there's not a single thing on this earth that's really actually ours.
It's just
only
you.
Our soul. There's nothing. We don't own a single thing. We can say it in the terms of the human vocabulary, whereas I own my car. But they even talk about that in your relationships. If you've broken up, why would you say my ex, even though we all do? But I've been trying to do better about this because he's not really mine. He is the ex person, the person that I dated. And even like my debt, if we're going to go power coordinate here, just say the debt that I've accumulated. I mean, it takes the energy out of ownership. Take it away.
Well, at a young age, we're already doing it. Oh, my teddy bear, my
Toy Story, right? My bear, my bear. You're right.
It's my baby. It's all these different.
It creates suffering because it can be taken away. So if you're attached to something, then it can be taken away. Anything,
and that's where codependency is we need to cut that shit off.
Codependency, and then the boundaries of
add that. It's like getting rid of something and adding in these boundaries. That's like the complete duo right there. It
is.
I definitely
it comes down to self-love, self-respect, and self-integrity.
So much self-love gaining from that.
Yep. It's amazing. And Ashley and I talk about this because of the change it's done in our life. Like, I don't know if I could even fathom the depths of love I have for myself, but because I chose this route, the depths of love I can have for others, it's overwhelming. It's blissful in so many ways. And even though life can be crazy,
I really love people for like the depths of who they are.
Yes. Like,
beautiful.
I'm not critical on myself in the way that, so I'm not critical on others. It's just like, you all live your life. And I know we say negative and positive just to explain it as the human like vocabulary once again, but there's the polarities of being maybe a little bit more of a positive outlook in life, looking for the beauty and the gratitude and things. And then there's the negative polarity where you decide to stay the victim and the person that blames and shames other people, because it's not, it can become easier to do that than to go in and realize that you got to take responsibility for your own actions in life. And this is where boundaries comes in. It's taking responsibility for protecting and respecting yourself. It's healthy. It's so healthy.
Find your people as people are starting to shed. I realized this as I was starting to shed people whenever I was doing that. I had all these beautiful friendships, and my relationship with Jerome grew even further from the detachment of codependency and understanding our boundaries together. It was really beautiful, and I had such loyal and beautiful friendships come in. And the other ones, they went and found their other little nest to go into, and it was great.
It's okay.
We found our people. Like,
you get to learn and evolve in this life of what you do like and what you don't really want to be around. And we've all kind of done different eras of our life too. I think, awakening and then taking from being religious into spiritual bypassing, and then into self-acceptance and loving and acknowledging I just appreciate my dark shadow and integrate it in, and then things I don't want to believe anymore. Like, there's just so many different things that you don't have to be part of your reality anymore by making choices to show up for yourself. And we really learned this through codependency no more. And boundaries, really so interesting, sitting down and writing to know thyself, the things that you like to do or you love to do, or things that excite you. And then going back a little bit later and reflecting, do I really like this. So when you know thyself and the integrity behind it, was I just in this because of this certain group of people?
Mm-hmm.
I find where you can do integrity. The question I ask myself, and I know I've spoken this a couple of times before, but if you're joining us for the first time ever on this episode, is that if you had, let's say I have 10 clients in one day, one is Muslim, one is Christian, one is Jewish, one is atheist, different religions, and then they all have different political views and different things. For me, who am I showing up as? What do I know? What I believe in? Um, or am I being a chameleon with each person so that if the person at 6 a.m. I'm a certain way, and the person at 10 a.m. is, and they're totally different people, and I'm a certain
Mm-hmm.
way, that's not living in my truth. That's living in trying to be accepted and people pleasing. And so a lot of times, maybe in that situation, if I'm going to stay there, is I would just listen and have them feel heard, love on them for exactly where they were at, with no opinion,
Mm-hmm.
um, not putting my belief system on anybody. Not that I was not living in my integrity, but there are places too you'll find in life that it's not worth saying that. It's not worth it. And there are other times where things were said that were against certain people. And this is what I would say. Somebody walked into the gym and said something about somebody, not even a client, and I would speak up because let's say they start ripping on what's out there in the world, like gay people or a certain sector of ethnicity. Of course, I'm going to speak up.
Mm-hmm.
My thing was, if your
Well, that's your
child,
belief. You believe
yes,
them.
my deepest root of where I'm at in life is that there's no superiority and there's no inferiority. We are all
Mm-hmm.
equal. We are all have one with each one of us are given a spirit. That's equality. We
Mm-hmm.
all start there. Little kids do not walk around and say, "Oh, you're
No.
this, so I can't talk to you." It's a taught thing. It's a learned thing. And so for me, if I had a child that came to me and all of a sudden, let's say they told me they were what some people be out there be so against, say they were gay. Um, that's what I've said to people when they've said certain things. I'm like, well, if your son came to you now, knowing their background information, if he came to you right now about this, would you not love him? How would you want people to treat him?
Yeah.
That's the way I look at things. And so bringing it back to the boundaries, my heart, I will speak my integrity also. It's not always blocking things or protecting things. A lot of times it's the boundaries of not walking away and feeling like you should have said your
Mm-hmm.
truthfulness of who you are,
Mm-hmm.
so that in a way that person can decide whether they want to or not want to talk to you again.
Yeah.
And that's okay because you lived in your truthfulness, the respect level, and that helps you show up more and more with your so-called healthy boundaries
Yeah.
because you're living in your truth. And that's one of my highest values, is do my very best to be truthful. And that helps with boundaries, because if you live that way, then you will speak out what you need to, like what
Well,
Ashlyn's been talking about.
codependency is avoiding confrontation. So boundaries
Mm-mm,
is not about avoiding confrontation, obviously.
mm-mm,
It's about speaking your truth
right,
and not avoiding what you truly believe in your values and your ethics. It's if they keep constantly bringing you down, that's when your boundaries are set up.
right.
I am so in love with our community already.
Yeah,
Thank you guys for joining us. Share, subscribe, follow, because the
yeah,
more we're able to do that, we're able to spread the love and give back to others, and comment what you've learned or what you want to learn even further. Because we're right along with this journey with
right,
you. Like we've mentioned, we're all one, and we want to share our message, and we want you guys to share your message. And we understand the need for a community right now, and we are here to bring that to the world. So form this community with us, bring people along, hug your brothers and sisters.
Right. The connection is real. We would love to hear down below 1 or 2 or 3 of your healthy boundaries, because we're helping each other out here. We send you our love, our deepest love here on this. And
you're always welcome here. And follow us on Now That's Love for more updates on podcasts, merchandise, and our amazing journals, because the more we're able to contribute that out, the more that you're able to just to grow along with us and gain further consciousness in this amazing journey.
So from our home to yours, we send you so much love and peace. Much love. Bye-bye.
Much love. Now that's love, baby.